Okay, so now that we've removed everything off the frame, taken off all the components down to the bare frame itself, I've taken it, cleaned it off as best I could with what I could, and this time, again, no painting whatsoever. I did not do any touch up on this frame other than just clean it as best I could. There was a couple spots I didn't catch before I put on the clear coat though, so those are now part of the bike. But regardless, overall it does look much better, and of course the clear coat will protect the paint and rust spots. Hopefully protect the rust spots from continuing to rust, obviously, and it really does. That's a clear coat. Is the whole purpose of the clear coat is to kind of protect the paint as well as the actual frame metal as well. So now that this is done, what I'm going to do now is that we're going to reassemble the headset and put the fork back on the bike and start to assemble the bike.
Okay, so the first thing I do is look at all the parts, just kind of inspect them, and then I started cleaning up the lock washer, and it was well chromed, so the cleanup was actually quite easy to do, and it started to shine immediately with my little wire brush on my little Dremel tool. I kind of put that on the side, said okay, that's good, that's looking nice, and then I started in on the top bearing race, and same thing, because it wasn't chromed as much, it was more just hardened steel, then it didn't look as clean or as beautiful as the lock nut, but hey, it was close enough. I was like, that's looking pretty good. So I started to soak the bearings as well, and started in on one of the bearing cups, and realized that it was quite caked on there with some dry grease that had been there who knows how long. And so I scraped at it with my little awl as well as with my knife, and just, you know, scraping off stuff. And I started just to polish it a little bit, and it was getting quite a bit off there, but there was just so much stuff buried down inside the groove that I had to continue working with the steel wool, with my awl, with the knife, and just alternated between all of them until I got it looking pretty good. And you can see there is some wear on that cup, but overall it does look really nice. So started in on the next one, and you know, again, the same process, just scrape at it, work at it, clean it up, make sure that I could get all the old junk off of it, and you know, clean with the solvent until I could see that it was, you know, I polished it with some steel wool again. And once I started to see what I wanted to see as far as the other one was concerned as well, then I left it on the side and started in on the bearings. And the bearings the same way. There's definitely some stuff caked inside there, and I had to work at it quite a bit to get the junk off the actual race, the spacer, the bearing spacers themselves, as well as in between where the grease had caked inside the spacer, and I had to dig it out with whatever I had, you know, obviously with my awl, and just using my punch to do it. Then once I got the bearings looking pretty good, I was like, hey, so this is now getting to the point where I was feeling happy about the way things were sitting. They fit inside the cups nicely, and just went back after a little bit on the spacer washer, just to make sure that was looking nice and had a nice clean look to it. Use my little Dremel on it a little bit more. Once I felt it looked pretty good, then just did a last inspection, and this is the final result. So you can see that the cup itself looks great. Again, just a little bit of wear. Bearings, no problems whatsoever. All of them looked very clean. No pitting. None of them were chewed up, so I was able to reuse them as they were, with no need to replace any bearings or to replace the bearing spacer either. And the lock nut, and as well as the bearing race, also look very nice. Just not an issue whatsoever, as far as, again, you see a little bit of wear to be expected for the top race, but again, is that lock nut that just man, what a shine. That thing it just came out beautiful. So I did spot a little bit of something on there, and I was like, well, I'll just hit it with a little steel wool, just kind of clean that up. Then I used my cup compressor and put it together, and I said, okay, I'll compress this to put them to basically seat both the cups back onto the head tube. And strangely enough, as I was doing this, which is typical with most bikes, they wouldn't stay in. And I was a little surprised about that, because I assumed that they would stay, because typically they do, but that apparently the engineering wasn't as precise back in the day. And I could have just put them in there by hand and it would have been about the same, but they held. So I was happy with that. And then I started re-greasing everything, greasing the cups, greasing the bearings, and both the top bearing and the bottom bearing, and the same thing, put a little grease on the crown race on the fork itself, and there you go. Then I went ahead and put the threaded race on the top, and just went ahead and locked that down. Got it to the point where I felt pretty comfortable with the spacing, and went ahead and put the spacing washer on there, as well as the lock nut, and tightened that down. Because I didn't want to mess up the race on the top, then I just grabbed it with a rag instead of, I usually would grab it with some pliers or something like that. But I didn't have that, so I just went ahead and did it. It was walking on me a little bit, so I had to hold my knee as I twisted it until I got it to the point where I was pretty happy with the adjustment there. You see the rotation's really nice, very smooth. Considering the age of this bike, it actually was quite nice.
Okay, so now that we have the assembly, the headset assembly installed on the bike itself, I'll just describe the basic components as they're seen now. We have the top nut, which of course this nut here on the top, for obvious reasons. So this is actually the lock nut, which keeps the whole thing together. You have a washer that is just sitting underneath the nut, and then you have the top race, which actually is threaded along with the nut, and those two together are locked together so that they don't move. There's no movement either up or down. Obviously, that we don't want that. And then underneath the top race, you have your bearings and you have your top cup. Then you have your head tube, and underneath the head tube, then you'll have your lower race. You'll have the bearings underneath there, as well as another race underneath that, and that race is also connected to the top of the fork, and sits on top of the tube, the fork tube, and then the fork tube will go all the way to the top where the threads are here, making this a threaded fork. That's one of the types that they have. And then of course the whole intent is that we want to make sure that we have lateral movements. We want to make sure that we have a rotational movement that is very easy. I mean, it should rotate very smoothly with no real issues. And then it should not have any lateral movement like this. So it should not rock back and forth here, so that there's no movement this way. So the only rotation is this way. That's the only movement that this fork should allow. That's because of the two races they have at the top and bottom of the tube, which maintain that integrity of the axis that it rotates on. So again, this is now the the headset, and obviously I have another one on the crank that I did, as well as the pedals, and I'll put those links in the description, and hopefully you will check them out. And if you like my channel and the different videos that I have, go ahead and subscribe, and you give me a thumbs up, like, whatever you want to do, share with your friends, and then I'll post more content as it comes out. Until then, we'll see you in the next video.